And welcome back. We're picking up where we left off last time in Shadow Empire in the Oceania DLC on this hard Artica class difficulty world. Well, it's hard difficulty on Artica class. We're now on round 196 as we're opening up. As you can kind of see here, the end turn didn't go super well for us. Didn't go necessarily that badly either. Sort of this karma coming back for us for the effectiveness we think we'd had during the turn. We managed to keep a promise. We're up to a victory score of 54.4. Lost a leader killed in action. So in a way, it was probably a good idea that I recruited those extra leaders last turn. We have someone to fill the void. Industrial robotization, so our industry will be a little bit more effective. There is the improved recon plans ready to go. Economic Council. Again, we're going to go for robotization tech. Sadly, we do not have the logistics one. So we'll probably go mining that. Actually, we probably do want high-tech industry at some point. Let's grab high-tech industry. Maybe don't need a lot of levels of it, we do want it. Much like we just did, we're going to do the same thing with our fighter aircraft. Which is, of 3 designs we've been using, the only one we haven't upgraded yet. So simply leaving it as it is upgrades it to a 20 hex range. It's a pretty good range. Let's see if we futz with the numbers a little bit, if we can get the range to improve. So bigger engine doesn't appear to be helping. Usually want to run the lightest engine that gets you the range you need, because it's more fuel efficient. Very small wings. Go small wings instead. Can we change the fuel? Medium wings? What if you go medium engine? Ooh, medium engine get up to 25 hexes. That's giving it a bunch more fuel. But we can probably do that. Okay. So, I believe the game max on the range of your aircraft is 25 hexes. So this has basically got the game max range. Carrying the largest sort of DACA for air-to-air weapons. We could swap over to missiles. The cost of swapping over to missiles is you lose... Oh, in this case, you actually lose air firepower as well. So it's more expensive. It's machines and rare metals. It does 100 ground fire, 200 air fire. The Twin Gauss here, because it's Twin Gauss, it's the best the guns can get, is probably what we're going to stick to. It's the best for the dogfighting. The fighter bomber size, the next size up, could probably mount the large air-to-air, which would be better than the MGs. In this case, this is the best we're going to be able to do, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and set the Null Council on making one of those design-wise. Zone, give credits to appease them. We like commerce. New zone. Give them some budget. Tell them they can actually pay the workers if they get some workers. Get the recruit sign-up bonuses sorted.
Okie dokie.
Roger that.
Okay, and then this city, the city we took over, Freeloth, at the beginning of the war, isn't quite there yet. They need one more turn. We will go ahead and play a strat card there. We play crowd control to help deal with the unrest.
Yes, sir.
There they go. There goes their unrest. So that'll help them recover a little bit more. So next turn we can probably go ahead and
Aye, aye, sir. Aye, aye,
make
sir.
an incorporated zone.
Aye, aye, sir.
Yes, it's red on the front. We're still giving a clinic and a power generator because we can. Oh, I forgot to deliver the colonists last turn. Victory overview, we're up to 54.4 down. They're down to 33.6. So that is a 21 point delta. We need, well, a little under 21 point delta, but about 21 point delta. Because of the rounding on that third digit. We need 25, so we're about 2% off of victory. As you can see here, we now control more than half the planet, we control more than half the population. The big thing that's sort of stopping us from winning right now is they control so much of the planet. Which, if they can't mobilize the defenses to defend most of it, is something we may literally be able to just roll through quickly. So we'll see if we keep advancing all the fronts at the speed we have been. Down here in the southwest, that's a pretty good sign. If anything, we're sort of struggling with the fact that our troops just can't move quick enough to get to where we probably want them to. This heavy tank, this was part of the heavy tank brigade down here that got cut off. At this point, I don't think it's escaping. It probably doesn't have the fuel to run for it. We're not in a really good position yet to take it out. We're still waiting for the anti-tank to roll up. But I think next turn we'll be able to get rid of it. South portion of this line is stable. The north portion of the line is actually sort of chasing the enemy that's running away from it. Okay, and we got a link up between both sides there. Whether or not that is generating a fear within them to encourage them to withdraw or not, don't have that level of info. Alert up here. We'll come back here in a minute. So, southwest is dealt with. Making pretty good gains in the southwest. Southeast, it does appear the enemy is basically in full withdrawal, except for the pocket up here, which they were able to break out of. Though not entirely. We can see the guys up in the north here. These guys are boned. These guys aren't getting out. We might not be in a position to run the tanks down. The tanks were always going to be the sketchy part on the encirclement. Can we kill the tanks? Looks like the tanks are going to break out. And, well, whether the tanks can form a functional battle line or not after breaking out is a different question. But they've broken out. And will continue to have escaped. Infantry marching forward. We are progressively having more logistics issues the farther we're going here. This truck station has finished. I don't think we have the metal necessarily to get the rails out here. So we're kind of relying on that truck station being enough. We'll go ahead and queue up its improvement. You can see 100 something. So come out to like there. Yeah, so we're even already at the point where that really wants to be a supply depot. Supply base, even once the truck depot, the truck station's working. I suppose preemptively getting that built is the thing that's going to maybe support the logistics of this advance. We're having a little bit less of a struggle with supplies. Almost to the point where we've got a link up between these guys. In fact, now we do have a link up between these guys. Okay.
Let's go.
Not necessarily think that's going to be an effective exchange. Oof, armored cars got tore up.
Mission accomplished.
That wasn't the greatest exchange, but we managed to bloody the nose of the tank at least. Okay. So yeah, we'll see if this is enough to get the logistics here going down in the south. If it is, we should be able to push out, probably out to here pretty easily. Again, we want to keep paving the roads as we go. So as we continue to support this, support the advance. Because on dirt roads, it's going to be even worse. Oops. No, we don't want to build a dirt road. We want to pave the dirt road. Yeah, as far as there. As far as there. Yeah, southeast, we're definitely making good time. Albus down here is... Well, there's basically no one in Albus, so it's maybe not worth seizing, other than the fact that I think it is the local supply hub for the guys in the south here. Instead of focusing on trying to chase the tanks, we're going to focus on clearing the pocket to the north.
Operation successful.
Nowhere for them to
Let's
escape.
go.
So if we can just panic in the tanks, which we did, there goes the pocket. So yeah, the guys down here have, for practical purposes, escaped. Because we're going to be in a position to run them down. Moment. Though we do have enough to form a proper battle line, so they're not going to be able to capitalize and come north from escaping the pocket of the pocket. Yeah. Okay, so that's the southeast. Oh yeah, this is turning into another pretty good pocket situation for us. Oh, that's another airfield there. Anyhow, these guys are gonna just pile on in. Applying pressure to the pocket. Yeah, so the guys down here, they're not getting out. It's too far of a run. They're going to be tarpeted the whole way down. Don't necessarily have the aggressiveness enough. Like, that would be a good unit to maybe cause a withdrawal on, because it would cut off the guys up top, but not quite there yet. And we did manage to get the 11th stuck in, form the gap, blocking gap between the city here and the encirclement to the south.
Going in. Mission successful.
making progress. You're an AT again. Let's... Oh, we've already freed you up. Let's ready you south. Same with you. Makes sense to attach to the third, or... It's a bit of a mix down here. We can attach these both to the third, and they'll probably be reasonably commanded by the third commands. And these AT guns will hopefully help us keep the tanks from doing a breakout like they did down here on the pocket. See if we can panic and get that infantry to surrender. Yeah.
Easy.
Oh, and that's even a just unit artillery. It's not going to appreciate getting attacked.
Abort.
Ran out of action points. Okay, we took more vehicle damage than I was hoping. Given the circumstances, let's go ahead and carry out a... What level airfield is this? 1. Okay, never mind. If that was a better airfield, we'd be tempted to relocate to it. But it won't support the fighter bombers. So instead we're going to carry out a reconnaissance and then air attack. Let's actually try to get rid of the artillery, because the artillery could be, well, it's not properly escorted, and that's very vulnerable to ground attack right now. Could, if it gets away and gets onto that infantry, be an issue. Let's try to shoot up its motorization, at least. Got rid of 2 guns, 2 trucks. Can we carry out a second attack? No, we're out of mobility at that point. Yeah, there's still some action points left, so they could probably hit someone, but not in their current position. Okay, so that is the east. Can we actually strategically move you? Yeah. This is the this militia. I think we're gonna go ahead and have form the garrison to that town if we can get it there. Do we have logistics on the town now? We do. So, railhead, truck station. And hopefully the armored cars will be able to hold the city. In fact, I'm going to give up the suburbs a little bit. And just accept that we might lose that hex, because I want the infantry in there in case. These both look like AT units. Those are some big anti-tank units, yeah. Let's give the armored cars some infantry support to deal with the anti-tank. That sounds like a good thing, that otherwise we might have problems with them getting blown up. Okay, so how badly torn up did the motorized units get? Badly enough that 2 of them have been demotorized, basically. You got more infantry than trucks, you got more infantry than trucks. Oh, no, you're pretty demotorized. Oh no, you're fully motorized, okay. Gotta forget, it's 10 trucks to 100 infantry. Needs to say the guys that got demotorized are a little bit slower moving. Yeah, don't think they quite have, because of the airstrikes there, they don't have the initiative, I think, to get through to the airfield.
Let's go.
Yeah, that was a bad promotional attack.
Abort mission.
Yeah, very much abort mission there, I agree. Okay, tank. Sadly, I don't think the air recon has the range to reach the airfield. No, honestly, the air recon doesn't have the range to reach anything at the moment. Okay. In fact, that air recon's becoming so unreliable due to the range we're at. Let's actually do... It's on move already. Okay. Can we fly you... no, that's out of range for a single flight. Okay. Can we strategic move you? That's the next question. To a airfield more appropriate for your status. Yes. So we can go ahead and just air move it out here. Or strategic move it over there. So basically, we load it on a train and had the train taken out to Freeloth here. From there, it'll probably be able to air move over to the airbase over here. And it will be useful. It just isn't useful for what we want it over here for. Now, we do have better recon. This is what we're about to stand up. We're about to send up the second generation of that. The ones with guns. They also got about 2 more hexes in range. So that might be enough to get into the airfield. I think that's the reconnaissance, or the spy information we're getting on the bombers. So we will attempt an air attack. The fighters and the second generation fighter bombers have the range, so they will attempt an air attack on the airfield here. And yes, that is the enemy's level bonder group.
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
And by striking the airfield, we've managed to destroy 2 bombers on the ground and damage the readiness of quite a few more. Oh, 1 bomber, and we actually managed to take out 1 of their fighter planes. Does not mean the air attacks are over, however. That was only the fighters and the second generation fighter bombers. Now comes the first generation fighter bombers, which are going to tee up for an air attack on the tanks here. And we managed to kill 3 of the tanks.
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
So we can also go ahead, while we're thinking about it, let's stand up a second generation... Oh no, we don't have second generation fighters yet. They're what's being researched, that makes sense. Okay. You want another second generation bomber? That would help a lot with disrupting that airfield, so I think the answer is yes. And we're going to need to workshop up some more ammunition. That's something I might want to queue up for construction is... Whoops. More ammo factory.
Yes, sir.
The neutron flats here. Please expand the ammunition factory. Yeah, so we were up 11 points at the beginning of this turn. We'll see if that continues. Construction, we actually queued up a bunch of new construction. Everything else that was underway is going well. Apparently except the volcanic power plant was delayed. Is that a bad roll? That was a bad roll. Okay. Back to spying. 113 to deploy that. And should be pretty plausible with the spy attached.
Yes, sir. Roger that, sir.
Cold Rebellion.
Yes,
Drop
sir.
Cold
Roger
Rebellion.
that, sir.
Critical success. Another 11,500 people defect to the rebels. Rest rises by 15. We managed to roll a 307 on the roll. got 7 spies there. Let's
Yes,
embed
roger that,
a few more
sir.
spies there. And let's also try to embed some spies in the sector struggling
Yes, sir. Roger that, sir.
to give us some better reconnaissance. Apparently we have 17 spies already there. Okay. I think that's then good. Let's go ahead and roll the turn. That looks like General is withdrawing. See if it is when we get to our turn. As units attempt to break out of the pocket, or well, none of the pockets are tight pockets yet, so they're sort of walking out of the pockets, but they're all withdrawing from potential pocket locations. Airstrike 1, so we haven't disrupted the bombers entirely. Oh, I forgot to account for replacements. None of the units are getting replacements this turn. Whoops. And that was actually a pretty good turn for us. We only lost 500 infantry and 80 motorized. Roll not bad. There's the fighters too. Victory points each 58.4. We'll agree to that because I suspect we'll have won before that even comes into play. For or against us. Do I want to do some level bombing or precision bombing? Let's hook the medium air. Let's do a design for the medium aircraft. So the 2-engine design. Let's say this is going to be. Okay, so the 2-engine design can carry. Yeah, we'll say it's a tactical bomber. Can carry some precision bombs. So let's see if we can try to build something with some decent precision bombs. Okay. Guns, some precision bombs, and fuel. 25x fuel range. That's probably more than we need. Okay, we need very heavy engines with a 40k fuel tank with large wings. So that is the medium 2-engine aircraft for precision bombing as my tactical bomber. Yeah, that should be a functional bomber. This will be much more, unlike our fighter bombers, which we're using to sort of tear tanks to bits, this will be far more effective at blowing up the infantry. So that's what we're building it for. Heavy aircraft, not heavy aircraft, the medium aircraft 2-engine. Build me one of these. We may need to expand some of the airfields to support that, but we'll see. Roaming thieves, yes, deal with the roaming thieves. Where do we sit victory point wise? 55.4, they're at 32.6, so that is a just short of a 13, well, just short of a 23-point delta. So about another 2-point delta and we win, so we're getting real close. Yeah, I'm not sure how successful the rebels are being. That might be one of the things that's not helping us as much, is the rebels aren't necessarily being quite decisive enough for us. Okay, I don't think the anti-tank's going to get involved in time. I think it is time to attempt to close that pocket. Hoping these guys just don't have enough capability to respond. There we go. Traded 1 infantry. Enemy resistance in our rear has fallen. Which does mean we have a really big gun on the way up to provide fire support that isn't necessary anymore, but that happens sometimes. It's usually better to have a bigger gun that you need than show up and find out you need a bigger one, and then you're getting in the situation we kind of were already, where you're waiting for a gun to arrive to deal with the problem. Yeah, so we got a pretty secure line up here. If we can shrink the line any more, we might be able to get the units of the 19th back up to actually back up to where their position is on the north. Probably want to do reconnaissance and preparatory strike on that hex, but a 5-way attack is probably, if we can break their readiness, a good location to strike. Maybe. Oh, and they're starting to withdraw up here. That's interesting. So yeah, some signs that we're starting to curl on the flank, curl the enemy's flanks. See if we can keep that going. Okay, so we got some airstrikes to do in the west, but I think that's the west. So we're going to get the east before we commit to those airstrikes. We are seeing some signs that we definitely improved the logistics, which makes sense because that truck hub came online. We're still expanding it. The supply base got delayed a turn, so we won't get the benefits of the supply base for another turn. Don't quite have the windows or the action points to get that unit surrender. Shame. Getting a little threadbare, but once we clear out the pocket guys up here, we can start to shimmy east with the force to tighten up the front over here. Okay, kind of reliant on the anti-tank doing its thing before armored carpet gets blown up, but
Operation successful.
okay, so the tank is destroyed. The infantry is so buried deep in our encirclement that it can fight us, but it's not going to escape. It is well and truly trapped. Okay. Well, before I forget, let's make sure we got those reinforcements. Go out to the troops. Five buggies. Oof. 5 sub-units of buggies. 6 of anti-tank. At least they're probably mostly pack 1s, or placing the pack 2s.
Move out. Operation successful.
Can we get those anti-tanks involved? No, they won't be involved for this fight. Maybe involved in the next one, but we'll try to clear this pocket so it can't escape.
Mission successful.
Yeah. Okay, so these guys are goners. These 2 pockets are goners at this point. There's no way they're going to escape. I'm gonna give them a turn or two to. Well, we're gonna give them a turn to run out of supplies. We'll see them struggle a little bit. Because I don't want to waste too many troops getting them all shot up. Okay, one of these planes will move forward to that airbase. It's not big enough to support anything except for reconnaissance planes, but might as well get the old reconnaissance planes getting some work out of them. Can we do an air recon with you? We can. Please recon the anti-tank.
Birds are in the sky.
You'll have 1 air recon in you. Okay. Well, it has 2, but range of 1 recon is not enough recon. As far as targets, that artillery is the highest priority target, so go ahead and drop all the bombs on it.
In the sky.
Did you fail that badly at bombing? Oh no, I still had an air recon. Whoops. Okay, we got adequate reconnaissance on that artillery piece. I think we probably have excessive reconnaissance on that artillery piece now, but let's attack it. It's got nowhere to go, so it should just get overrun real quickly. There we go.
Operation successful. Mission accomplished. Go into it now.
There we go. Pocket's cleared. That's another artillery piece. Pound it hard, quickly.
Easy.
Alright, we don't have... So let's move the HQs into the town to garrison it for the moment. But I don't need any garrisons otherwise. Okay, we want to push road connection forward so we have adequate supply. Probably does make sense to connect up to... Oh, we don't have access to it yet. Next turn we will. Up to the road network down there, so we got supply down that road. Yeah. Destroy this pocket, that'll free up a bunch of troops to push east over here. And yeah, at this point I don't think they got enough troops. They would need either a lot of tanks, which they apparently don't have. We've encircled tanks down here and got to destroy them. Or probably pretty heavy air support, which they're not really showing signs of. So we'll probably be able to push out to that city. Not that there's, again, not that there's anyone in any of their cities except for their capital these days. It's basically just the minimum workforce to keep the city working. And here we have Air Force strikes, I think is what we've got to do. So let's send the reconnaissance plane in to do some reconnaissance on the airfield. Ah, no, we're one hex short from air reconnaissance on the airfield. Well, then let's do some air recon on these tanks here.
Birds are in the sky.
Now, the second generation fighter bombers can carry out air attacks on the airfield. So let's go shoot at that airfield. Bringing in more planes, allows us to get more reconnaissance and more damage delivered in the short period of time. 6 subunits destroyed in the airfield attack. 3 of them appear to be fighters, 3 of them appear to be bombers. That isn't all our planes. The old first generation fighter bombers can come in on the tanks we did reconnaissance on. Take advantage of our high reconnaissance to get some good kills here. 2 kills where the enemy managed to seek cover.
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
And to be fair, they probably have the ability to do another airstrike if we had a target for them that was in range. But we lose range when we carry out the attack because you use subtraction points. That would be one strength of potentially taking that airfield, as that would give us a forward base from the bombers to strike from. Yeah, I think that's the northwest. Let's go ahead and dump the colonists here. That'll get this place up to size
Yes, sir. Roger
4.
that,
We're not necessarily gonna... Well, we'll spend the political power if the option comes up to expand it, but we're not gonna worry too much about it. Specifically in that size. And I don't think we got the metal asset to build the road here, or build the rail here. Construct a road, rail. Yeah, no. Not enough metal. And we need something like another 7,000-8,000 more bullets, because we're going through the bullets quick. Those bombers draw off ordnance real fast.
Yes, sir.
Standing by.
These are not even strategic bombers, they're fighter bombers with rocket pods. Get some more people that way. Construction mostly going according to plan. Some delays, nothing too big. And then victory-wise, yeah, we got a 22, 23 victory point delta. If we get 25, we win. Sadly, I think this is another turn where we're not going to be able to get another... Or this is a turn where we're not going to be able to play a rebellion card. 108 for 2, 104 for 1. What's the expected over? Okay, 1 looks like we'd be able to get off with the diplomat at this point. Or the shadow spy. 2 might actually be at the point where we could get it off without the shadow spy now. As the information we have is implying they're becoming more and more vulnerable to it. Okay, so let's shadow spy. That's the diplomat. Shadow spy the director of the Secret Service.
Yes, sir. Roger that, sir.
And then we'll play Cold Rebellion.
Yes, sir. Roger that,
Critical
sir.
success. This is Cold Rebellion 1, so it's a little bit less effective. We only managed to get 4,000 population to defect to the rebels. And this is the city with all their population, pretty much. We're a little bit more divested. We're not all focused in one city, but they are focused all in one city, pretty much. Okay, so I think we're at a point where we're going to go and cycle the turn. Yeah, let's cycle the turn. This is probably the end of this turn. The end of this end turn is probably where we're going to go and put the part break in. So I hope you've all been enjoying. We'll see how the enemy retaliates, or if the enemy retaliates, to all we've been doing this turn. Seeing generally what looks like withdrawing again to try to shore up the line in many places. They're attempting to break out of the pocket and fail. Bombers strike. Okay, they were able to capitalize on the bombers coming in, but the bombers didn't actually do much damage to themselves. I suspect that's just due to us striking the airfield over and over and over again. Defender standing firm there, that's good to see. Up there is some aggressive action there in the south. It's one of the problems of having such a loose front line. Oh, actually, never mind. This is not going to be... Well, this will be the end of the part, but this will be also apparently the end of the stream. So this video is going to be a little bit long, because we've just been told we won the game, so I'm going to do the after-action report in this video. So, Neutron Flat states, we have won the game. Killed 100... Well, we killed less infantry, less tanks than we lost in this end turn, but we apparently got enough terrain during the turn that made the difference. We have won the game. Strength is now so big the others do not stand a chance anymore. We have won the game. So what is the current state victory overview? We are at 56.4 and they've dropped to 31.3, and that is in fact a 25-point delta. That is a 25.1 delta. So I think the rebels there played the part, because I suspect they would have stayed within 25. The rebels hadn't dropped them a little bit. So with that, we have won. So yeah, the power of the Air Force. Where they were getting an effective Air Force deployment, we were definitely having problems. And up here, when we were trying to take Freelon, or Freeloth, early on, I think this only went as well as it did because we had an airfield here, and we were just pounding the airfield. We had the ability to air recon the airfield and just pound it with the fighter bombers again and again and again and again. And I think that grounded enough the aircraft we were able to do successful encirclement of the city. And then when we did drive into the city, we managed to destroy the vast majority of the aircraft on the ground, preventing them withdrawing out to other locations in the area here. But we haven't succeeded to do that over here in the west, which is why we're struggling a lot more over here. Yeah, so I think this kind of shows off the power of Rebels. The Rebels kind of did for us what nuclear weapons might do for people in different games, which is disrupt the enemy's organization, preventing them from reinforcing their fronts and stuff like that. Because they were definitely fighting pretty well. They just needed a little bit more troops, and they could have probably stabilized those lines. But as you can see from the chicken pox that the rebels are, they're having problems containing the rebels, much less containing us with the number of troops. And while they're doing, in many ways, they're doing a good job of it. A good job in a bad situation is not always enough to guarantee victory. So let's go look at the stats. I suppose we can look at the reports first. So they were functionally, well, there were two regimes rift. We've got the Cambridge Imperium. Here's the Cambridge Imperium overview. They were reasonably friendly. In fact, there's a decent possibility we could have probably tried to do victory pact with them. No, right now they weren't in favor of that. But yeah, they were reasonably happy with us. To be fair, the guys we were at war with were reasonably happy with us until the point we declared on them the first time. The second time, they were a little bit more wary of us. Let's see, that's their overview. Let's look at their economy. So yeah, they had a population about 350,000. This is number 3 in the game, population number 3 in the game. So you can see their population for their entire country was almost the size of our capital. So we're definitely doing a lot better than number 3, which maybe isn't surprising because number 3 is only scoring about 10% of the planet. And apparently it had about 20% of the population. Most of our population is located in our capital, unsurprisingly. But we were doing a little bit better, I think, keeping it spread out than the other regimes were. Whereas the people we were at war with, which was Ontaria, these are the guys we had to beat to win. It looks like they had about 450,000 spread out across all their cities, of which we think... Let's see if we can find their capital. Pretty sure this is their capital. And yeah, so they got 450,000. This one city, and this is after all the rebels depleting people from the city, from people defecting from the city, still has 250,000 of their 450,000 people. So everyone else has got to be bits and drabs across everywhere else just to keep it that dense. And these are some of the bigger cities you can see in here. It's like, okay, that's like 20,000, that's like 40,000, that's like 40,000. So without the rebels stealing a big bunch of population from their core, we had quite a big distance to go. The only city they had that was reasonably large, besides their capital, was Freeloth over here. That was close to the front line when we started war number 1 and number 2. This also used to be, I think Freeloth was the capital of the Freeloth Reich. One might notice that they have 0 score. I think Freeloth Reich had actually early game fallen to the minor nation that controlled Quartz Flats. Prior to us taking Quartz Flats. And then as we were taking Quartz Flats, Ontaria here managed to take Freeloth. So that's why Freeloth is as big as it was. I think it was one of the country capitals. And then land on ruins here, and Cambridge is obviously Cambridge is a capital of Cambridge Imperium. And somewhere over here is another capital for the Zelen Heights. There's Zelen Hansa. The Zelen Hansa apparently doesn't control their own capital, so I think that at some point fell to Montoria. Now, where that capital was, I think it was down here, but I'm not sure where that one was. I would have expected to have some more people, though. Maybe the fighting back and forth caused it to lose a lot of population as well. But yeah, so this was a very interesting game. I think actually the things that was the most interesting conceptually was it's hard to tell now because we've been working on reducing the radiation here. And granted, we haven't been working very aggressively to work the radiation down here. The radiation around iron thaw here was as high as it was up here, around 600 point. So that was a very interesting bit early game. Was at one point we were trying to take the city by military force, and the uphill battle of fighting in 500 rad territory against defenders in a city that, because they were in a city, we're getting 400 rad protection. That's for sub 200 rad most of the time. Basically 600 rad versus 200 rad. That was such an uphill battle. We couldn't take this city. We'd basically taken the surroundings and weren't able to take it. We actually negotiated these guys unification-wise by diplomacy to join. And then there was a lot of interest in... I think we've been slowly receiving the radiation here as well. A lot of interest in the mid-game of trying to get the radiation protection so we could push out into the zones around us that had attrition-level radiation. And once we managed to do that, it basically turned into a foot race for the planet with Monteria, because we had basically half the planet's population, which prevented them from winning. But they actually had much more of the planet than we did. And I think, well, no, we have officially reached the point where we have more planet than they did. That explains how we won, because from a population perspective, other than Freeloff, we really haven't got any more population from the war. They've lost a lot because there's been a lot defecting to the rebels, but we haven't really taken much from them. Really, what we've been taking from this planet, because it was how far behind in the planet we were. So that lets and yes, this was a Oceania class planet, so it technically had an ocean. By the time we'd found the ocean was negligible. It didn't really matter. This planet does have an ocean. Most of the things on here that you might consider an ocean are actually technically lakes. So I think that's the ocean. There's one ocean, and these are lakes. So needless to say, by the time we found that ocean, okay, I suppose there may have been some shenanigans we could have got into with like naval landings. Where we try to land really far behind the lands using the naval landings. Like, the capital of the nation we're with is actually reasonably close to that ocean, so we could have maybe done something naval landing to, like, drop next to the capital or something. But that would have been really, from a tenability standpoint, that would have been really hard, I think, to reinforce that landing enough to make it a real difference. But yeah, there was an ocean on this Oceania world. This is an Artica class world. Normally, if you were to do in the base vanilla game without Oceania, this equivalent world would be oh, now I'm forgetting the name of the planet class. But it's basically a ice ball. So you can get an ice ball world like this just without any oceans. This is one with oceans, and maybe this isn't the best planet class to spawn oceans on, or maybe we would have had to pull up the settings to futz a little bit more with getting good oceans on here if I wanted good oceans. Usually when I play runs, there'll be certain things I'm looking for, like, oh, I want there to be ruins or something like that, where I can, by looking at the planet generation screen, I can make those things happen. But I generally don't try to spoil the map to myself if I can get away with it. So I didn't know how much oceans there were on this planet before. Well, I knew how much water there was. I didn't know how much oceans. So this was a bit of boring from an ocean standpoint, but from a planet standpoint, it was a pretty interesting planet. So stat-wise, obviously we're neutron flats. So our total troops actually ends up being the most at the end. This is one reason I think we end up winning, is I focused a little bit more on getting enough troops out that we had local superiority in a lot of places. I think our troops in many cases were sort of lower quality than the opposition. There was a lot of armor on the other side, for example. I think we had one true armored unit. So there's a lot of armor on the other side. There was a decent amount of artillery on the other side. I think we had one dedicated artillery unit. And then we had a couple artillery units elsewhere that were... Actually, did we have any siege artillery units? I felt like we did. I think we had one dedicated artillery unit. So we had one tank artillery unit, one artillery unit. Most of our bombardment capacity was actually coming from airstrikes. So the airstrikes were, in many ways, very useful for our attacks in contested territory areas. We did do a decent amount of AT. That combined with the rocket launcher RPG units we had was basically how we dealt with the tanks. Basically, tar pit the tanks until we can get either RPG or the AT in to tear them up, or until we think they were enough depleted in fuel or something like that. We can bring the RPGs in to put them down. We can kind of see on this planet, if we weren't able to get going, likely Mortaria, who was the big boss of this game, probably would have taken off and won the game without us, basically. So even on hard difficulty, it sort of devolved into the two of us, which means if I'd dilly-dallied any more longer than that, there's a decent possibility we could have actually lost that. But yeah, definitely the bulking up to have enough troops to do the fight, I think, is what we needed. Here we can see the casualties sustained. So that's the Haunts. So that's probably the death cycle of the Haunts. Freeloth is barely on here. Freeloth, I think Freeloth actually lost their capital. I think it got plucked by the miner. The Month Rebels, okay. 15,000 casualties is not a small amount. This is total. This is not per turn. So I suppose the per turn is how much it goes up. The Montaria. As they're expanding across the planet, they're taking losses. This sort of static bit here is us... Either that's us doing the race across the planet, or that's us building up the army to do... I think this is probably the race across the planet. I think the one little jump in the middle here is my hubris war, where I started a war against them like, I think we're ready, and we really weren't ready. And then this is the last couple turns as we've been in the proper war where we were ready for it when we came for them the second time. So that was that ramp. This is probably them fighting the other majors. So if we didn't get going ourselves, they probably would have kept going. Well, maybe not in losses, but it would have kept expanding and probably would have won somewhere in here if we hadn't also been expanded during that time. And then this is us. So yeah, if you line it up, so that was the Hubris War. You can see the big giant jump in casualty rate. And we had rebels as well. Our rebels weren't as much of a problem. In fact, our rebels were around the Hubris War, right? So then Ontario. Oh, we only get to look at one at a time if we're clicking like this. But yeah, that little jump was the Hubris War. We did some damage, but really not very much. And then during the war with them, like theirs was going up, but ours was going up. We only, out of all the casualties they took the entire game, we've inflicted less than half of them. Though that was apparently about mutual. They inflicted just a little over half of ours in that last war. During the Hubris War, they also got like 10,000, 9,000 casualties, right? So the hubris war was really bad. And then that, to be fair, that was a sustainable loss rate for us in the second one. The first one, that wasn't. We weren't ready for it. We were really not ready for it at that point. But this time we were ready for it. Though that was, you can see, versus where we were losing troops from the entire time, right? We weren't losing troops that much until that point. And a lot of that was probably actually the northwest. And we can look at casualties inflicted. Again, we can see that was the real war at the end. That was the real war at the end. And then we got the hubris war in here. And we can see air forces, so that's the guns. They got a lot more artillery than us. I think the anti-tanks are technically classed as guns as well. And if that's the case, yeah, you can see me building the anti-tanks here near the end for the real war, because we were recognizing we were going to go into fighting tanks, and we needed some anti-tank to deal with them. High altitude class. I suppose this is the recon. This is the recon planes, probably. Didn't necessarily remember building very many recon planes. In fact, I definitely don't remember building 510 of them. Maybe that's the fighter bombers might be as well. Interesting. That must be the fighter bombers because it must be the recon. Okay. So the fighters apparently high altitude, and the fighters and fighter bombers high altitude and low altitude are my reconnaissance planes. Infantry. Oh, that's also the casualties, right? So, we were inflicting high altitude. That makes a little more sense. Total troops we had no high altitude. So they had high altitude, and they were actually got up to a high of 840 airframes. Level bomber airframes that we were able to shut down to 470 near the end. Whereas you can see our Air Force was getting up to about 360. All our stuff was low altitude, so it was fighters, recons, fighter bombers. And we didn't actually necessarily do very much damage there. We only killed about 40 of theirs. Apparently the Hansa managed to do some significant anti-air duty. Managed to take out 80 before they went. And then they only got about 80 of ours. Yeah. Regimes, this is us. Population, you can see the population across the thing. Or this is all the population, right? So, quartz flats, that's us. So we were maybe a little bit slow. Oh no, this is all our cities. So yeah, quartz flats, until we control it, we don't have any population there. But then that was the city we took. With military conquest. This was diplomacy. This is the capital. Capital being very slight growth over time in population. The big change in neutron flats, I think, is workers, right? So the civilian population not working for us is staying pretty static over time. Because I know it got higher than 80,000, right? We were 2,800, so we had about 2,000 workers near the end. Comparative manpower. Oh yeah, at some point we must have just had more men in the field than Monteria. It's a little bit surprising. Sometimes their troops felt a little oppressive, and I think that was their armor. Their armor was a lot more effective than ours. Well, they had a lot more armor than us, so they were able to use it to sort of punch down our infantry a little bit better. Right at tech level, we were all sort of together until people died, of course. Admin, we were a little all over the place. A little bit low in the middle, a little bit high near the end. Apparently we cared about our country's civilization score the most, and we're the only ones able to maintain it near the end. and then victory score, yeah. So you can see that we're kind of going up and up and up together. If I ended up getting in a stall state around 85 and stayed level there instead of going up, they would have run out for the victory. Because they were actually going up faster than us for a while. Then this is the period where we were sort of trying to get ready. I thought I was ready. We had the Hubris War. I did actually take a little bit of territory off of them, so they went down, we went up a little bit there. And then we were static because I was like, okay, we had the Hubris War. The Hubris War didn't go very well for us. Let me fix what was wrong, and then we started the war, and that's where we see the growth to our final delta there. Okay, so that's manpower. So, general rule, manpower was growing. Actual troops went a little bit more jagged, because I wasn't necessarily always deploying the manpower reserves, right? Average experience, average morale, average hunger, militia percentage. Yeah, so you can see that was the Hubris War. And then while we were getting ready to go to war with them again, we finished off one of the majors that lost the capital because their provinces were just in the wrong way. And that declaration of war caused a lot of happiness problems, so that's that morale drop there. And we got casualties, so you can see, yeah, the one turn casualty high, that was the Hubris War. And in the early game, that was dealing with the radiation, right? So you can see all the spots where I'm like, okay, I think we can get encirclement, we can get rid of some guys, and we are fighting guys, or we're walking into the radiation, so there's a little bit of jagged stuff going along here. Then it's stable once we get the radiation protection. We have the Hubris War. A little bit of rebellion after the Hubris War. And then here's the last couple turns of fighting. And those were some pretty hard fights going on, so it was pretty jagged in there. But we were much more ready for it up here at the end. So unlike the Hubris War, where if I didn't quickly sort out peace, I think the situation would have fallen apart and we would have started backsliding. Whereas in this one down here, we hadn't sorted out enough that we were doing much better. So we get to see population. Is there a way to see workers? Worker overtime. Not that I can see. Okay, well, I think that's about it for the reports. I suppose we can look at their overview. Yeah, you can see our population here. So at the end, we were apparently, yeah, we were the biggest nation, so that's maybe not surprising. We were just over 1 million people total. Which, when you compare that to these guys at the end, which were 450,000, and Cambridge Imperium, which were about 350,000, right? We had well more than half the planetary population. And apparently our country was nice enough that apparently we actually were the only ones with free folk left. So there were actually people migrating to our regions just to live in our regions, not even necessarily live in our cities. And here's our total troops, mostly infantry force, just sort of 200,000 people in infantry uniform, We had a decent air force. We had a decent number of most of it's saying tanks and infantry fighting vehicles or armored fighting vehicles. Most of these were buggies. I think there was only 50 of them were tanks. We had a bunch of trucks to move the guns and the infantry around. Comparing that to Mortarion, you can see they have a lot more high altitude level bombers. They had a lot more tanks. We were tanks and buggies. We only had 300. They were rocking 8 times that. So that's where the impressiveness of their force was coming in, was just the number of tanks. And this is the end. This is where they lose. They have 8 times more than us. And they only had 60% of our infantry. Right, so they're struggling because they don't have the infantry to hold the front lines, but oh, they have the tanks. They've got so many tanks. And this is the losing state, right? So at the beginning of the war, they had even more. Can we see Cambridge's army in here? It should be in here. There's Cambridge. Anyway, Cambridge, you can see, is number 3. Cambridge is having issues. If Cambridge was at war with people, they would have probably crumpled. So I think that's where we're going to go and end this run. So that is victory. That is a military victory. After the sort of disappointing victory pact victory we got earlier. Though that was a team victory. It was a team victory. We were the minors, so technically the game also told us we lost. We won and we lost. This victory is a true victory on this planet. We have won. Though maybe not as decisive as we'd like. I could definitely imagine a scenario if it wasn't a victory score winning where we could have this devolve back into a stalemate. Because most of the, well, basically most of their value is tied up in their capital, right? So it's still quite a long, dragged out fight to push the capital if we had to go for like 100% victory. But because of how the victory score in this game works, we have won. So with that, hope you've all enjoyed. This, of course, was a little bit longer of an episode than normal, because this is the one we won in. I want to do the after-action report in the video that we won. So those are technically broken into 2, and we'd had like a 20-30 minute after-action report, but it's stuck on the end of this video instead of stopping the recording. So I hope everyone has been enjoying. Hope you've enjoyed the little bit of action report at the end here. Probably when this is all released on YouTube, I'll go ahead and post to the Reddit, maybe with a sort of written version of the action report. And then we'll probably take a break and probably put a game cycle of a different game in, and then probably a week or so before we swap back, I'll go ahead and put up a poll to the Reddit as well, asking people what they'd like to see for the next game of Shadow Empire. Won't be an Artica class again, but we got a couple different things we can do. We could do something like a Cerberus or like a Jungle Ocean or something like that. Or we could try to for something special, like we could try to do a run down to nukes or something for the next one, some nuclear warfare. Get a couple ideas on what we could be doing, and I'll probably refine that as we move forward to the next one. So with that, I hope everyone has enjoyed. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, there isn't going to be a part up tomorrow because we just finished the game. And based on the fact I need to get up pretty early tomorrow, I'm probably not going to record anything else tonight. So we might actually be a bit threadbare on videos for a couple days. So I don't know how far ahead I'm recording. There may be a couple days where we only have 3 videos going up instead of 4. If you're watching on Twitch, I hope you've been enjoying. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream in a bit, so if you can think of any questions, now's a good time to leave any questions. Or again, you can, like most Twitch streams, you can go hop over to the YouTube channel if you're watching the VOD after the fact and are getting the late VOD. Hop over to the YouTube channel and leave your comments over on the YouTube, because I do respond to those comments. asynchronously, if that makes sense. Whereas on Twitch, I need to respond to them when the Twitch stream is live. The stream... Oh, there'll be another stream tomorrow, but it'll be a different game. Field Glory's Empire will be up tomorrow. The day after that will be Europe Universalis 4. We'll probably finish Europe Universalis 4 up during that stream as well. I think we only have America left to take over. Depends on how long it takes to take America over and how long it takes to... I think we want to trigger the disaster for the Ottoman Empire before we call it quits to that run. So that's the next two streams. The stream after that will be The Long Dark, and then the fourth stream will be whatever takes over for this game. I think we're going to do Terraforming Mars in that gap. Or, not Terraforming... well, Terraforming Mars I could be doing. I think I've got the game. I think it was Terraformers. I've been itching to do some Terraformers since I picked the game up recently. And I felt that would be something that would be interesting to maybe do a run or two on Twitch and YouTube. So I haven't been playing it, but I've been itching to play it. But I wanted to clear some space in the schedule for that. And then I suppose, much like 4 days from now, we'll be doing Terraformers. 4 days from 2 days from now, so 6 days from now, we'll probably be doing Victoria 3 in the new 1.9 patch. As we should by then have finished up Europe Universalis 4, and swapping from one Paradox game to another is probably a good way to fill that slot. And then probably after we're done with Terraformers, we'll probably be back to Shadow Empire. How long that takes, because I think we'll play a couple games of that, because it's got an iterative difficulty cycle on it, so take a couple games of that to get up to high enough difficulty, where it's real challenging. So yeah, I think that's where the stream's going to end. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, think about what you'd like to see in the next game, and if you can think about it and are interested in sharing it, feel free to leave that in the comments. It may find its way into the poll for what the next game should be when we've determined when the next game of Shadow Empire will start. In my mind, I'm thinking something like, okay, we're going to probably put Cerberus on the map. Would we really like to see a hot planet with rivers of lava after the really cold one? So we've still got a decent source of metal, but not a decent source of metal where we're relying on scrap. Though if people want a scrap planet, we can do a scrap planet again. We can do Jungle World, which we'll run into problems with metal in that one, but we can definitely do Jungle World again. The third thing I'm thinking of is we can do a game where we're intentionally planning to delay until nukes get involved, to play around a little bit with the nukes. So turn the game speed back up to normal. I think I've done fast and slow. So I don't think I've actually played the game on normal speed in a real long time at this point. So the first couple streams were on fast. The last couple have been on slow, which are the straddling speed, game speed developments around normal. So with that, I wish you all the best of luck and a good time until the next part, or the next stream. The next part of Shadow Empire, I don't know when that will be, because we're going to take a sort of hiatus from the game and play a different game in the meantime. Both to give time for people to catch up who haven't necessarily been keeping up to date on the game. And some time, once we've determined that we're going to start the next one up, for the poll to happen. Okay? So with that, wish you all best of luck, good time. Catch you all in the next stream, next part. Bye for now.